This is the Town of Barnstable Licensing Authority meeting for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. The meeting will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live stream on the Town of Barnstable's website. This morning we have, I'm going to introduce the folks that are involved up here. To my right is Nancy Carlson Lidman, Jessica Silver, and to her right is John Murphy. We also have Officer Chris Kelsey from the Police Department and Aaron Logan, Director of Licensing. This meeting of the Barnstable Licensing Authority is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must require whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. If there's anyone from the public that would like to say a few things, they need to step forward. Seeing none, we will move to the approval of the minutes for December 18th, 2024. Ms. Carlson, may we have the motion?
I move to approve the minutes of December 18th, 2024 as submitted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. In the public hearings, the first item, number 1, is a new common victor license. An application has been filed by Bread and Roses, 302 Main Street, Hyannis, for a new common victor license with indoor seating for 15. Proposed daily hours of operation are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I would like to pass this off to Ms. Logan.
If you want to just come up, Tiago. There, please, and I think the light's on. If you could just introduce yourself and just explain.
Hi, my name is Tiago. I own Cheese Bread Bakery Cafe, which got burned on fire on the 13th of November. And after the Cheese Bread Bakery was closed, we decided to look for another place. And then I introduced myself to Nathan, which is the previous owner of Bread and Roses. So and then I moved forward and purchased the business from him. And we're just trying to keep open the Bread and Roses.
I had just asked the clerk Decker to defer to me. I just had a couple of questions. I had seen some things that maybe the menu was changing from what you submitted, and that's fine, but we would just need an updated copy of the menu. Okay. And I just wanted to clarify for the record whether or not you had intended to serve alcohol.
So we are changing a few things off the menu. That was actually a device from Mr. Nathan because just being vegan was not creating enough traffic inside of the business. And that's one of the reasons that the business got closed, because there was enough traffic. And the second answer for you is, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Sure. Bread and Roses previously had an all-alcohol license. Yes. I just wanted to know your intentions with alcohol service. So
for now, I'm not going to sell alcohol because we lost the timing of the application of the alcohol license. And as I spoke with you, Ms. Arian, in the future, I will be applying for the alcohol license, but for now, no, we're not gonna serve alcohol. And I'm studying to see if that's what we want, that's what we want to achieve, like selling alcohol. I don't believe that a store needs to sell alcohol, but if the public is asking for, and if we can submit the application and we get approved, we might do it in the future, but not as of right now.
So you still have the Cheese Bread Bakery?
It's being closed because we did all the renovation. We did everything that we should do it. We passed on all inspections from the town of Barnstable, from food department to fire department. But the builder owner now is giving me a hard time to let me open the business. So right now we're trying to go to a civil matter because there's nothing that town of Barnstable can help me with. But yes, we still have everything over there. I'm losing food, I'm losing sales, I'm losing customers. I did all the renovation out of my pocket. I invested another $40,000 on the renovation, and yet the gentleman decided not to let me open. I don't know for what reasons he decided to do that. And he just told me last week that he's going to allow me to open on the third week of February, but I don't trust anything that comes out of his mouth because it's been several times that he told me to open, and then out of the sudden he texts me saying, no, do not open. But I do, for answer your questions, yes, I do still own bread and cheese bread bakery and cafe, but we're not open to the public until further notice, which should be like for March 1st, for as I know.
And you're still going under the name of Bread and Roses?
Yes.
the new one. Okay.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any questions? Right, with that, Aaron, would you present a,
I move to approve the new common victular license for Bread and Roses as submitted.
Thank
all
you.
in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item, an application was filed by Island Cafe and Grill Express, LLC, DBA Island Cafe and Grill Express, 480 Barnstable Road, Hyannis, for a new seasonal wine and common malt victor license. Inside seating for 36, patio seating for 12. Proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Proposed alcohol license manager is Erica Sterling.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you tell us a little bit about your operation?
So we originally owned Island Cafe and Grill, which is in INS, close to the DoubleTree Hotel and the Quarter Deck. And we started the cafe last year at the INS Cape Cod Gateway Airport. And there's a lot of potential for it. People are asking for, a drink or so. So we decided we're going to put in an application and move forward this year.
It's good. It's good. It's good you have a following like that and an interest in it.
Yeah.
It's always good for businesses.
Yes, thanks.
Does anyone have any questions? Aaron? All right.
I move to approve I move to approve the wine and malt common victular license for Island Cafe and Grill Express as submitted.
Thank
All
you
in
so
favor?
much.
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
Appreciate
much. All right.
Good luck.
Wish you the
Thank
best
you.
of luck. The next item is temporary and permanent closures. This involves Blue Moon, temporary closure of January 25 to April 25.
I move to approve the temporary closure request from Blue Moon as submitted.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. With the consent agenda, it looks like that's the item indicated with Cape Cod Maritime Museum to host the History on Tap, wherein they propose to serve malt beverages on the following dates and times: March 6th, 2025, March 20th, 2025, April 3rd, 2025, and April 17th, 2025. All events are scheduled to take place between 5 and 7 p.m., and current tip certification is on file.
I move,
For any of those who have not partaked of any of these History on Tap meetings that they've been having, I've attended 2 of them, and they're very, very educational, if nothing else. So,
I move to approve the consent agenda as printed.
all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. The next item is licensing updates with the licensing authority.
Thank you. I'm just popping up some information here. I wanted to just very quickly run by the most recent advisories that have been issued by the ABCC. give me here. So just for the record, these advisories are linked on the licensing division webpage, but they're also on the Massachusetts, the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission webpage. So under the advisories, we had a change recently to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34B, which changes the forms of IDs licensees can reasonably rely on. They have added to their list, so currently, right now, they accept a Massachusetts driver's license, a Massachusetts liquor identification card, a Massachusetts identification card, a passport issued by the United States or a government that is officially recognized by the United States, a passport card for a passport issued by the United States, and a United States military identification card. What they have added is a valid driver's license issued by any other state, and a global entry card issued by the United States Customs and Border Protection. So just something for our licensees to keep an eye out that, you know, these forms of ID are now acceptable. And again, they like to use their legalese. They can be reasonably relied on. I think I'm just looking at the end of the year. Okay. There was also a change to the licensed managers back in November, wherein you no longer have to be a United States citizen in order to apply to be an alcohol licensed manager. So again, these advisories are posted online. I have sent them out. So I'll leave that at that. There was some training. I'll make sure y'all get a link to that. I'm pretty sure that the state records those trainings, just so that you can, you know, have them for future reference. I guess on another, getting off of that subject, Officer Kelsey and I have talked about the 2025 alcohol compliance meeting. We've had I think, some great ideas of direction we want to take it this year. You know, I'll start, and if you want to kind of chime in, Chris, I am concerned with the rumors out there that are at this time not substantiated about, you know, Barnstable being one of the highest towns for DUIs. And it's concerning. So I think we want to kind of lean heavy on drinking and driving. And we talked about getting MAD involved. I would love to have someone come in who is a speaker, who perhaps has been through, who has been through this, who speaks on drunk driving and things like that. And did you want to add anything about cannabis or anything else? We had talked about having someone come in from the Cannabis Control Commission just to talk about what their patrons can and can't do in their establishments, which is they can't, but to have someone of official status letting our folks know.
So that conversation came out of I call it a field trip that I just had to an establishment off Cape. We do have a company that is looking to open a medical dispensary in the town of Barnstable. So I've been going out to look at other dispensaries to sort of see how they control their environment, what the security requirements are, so forth and so on. Through that, we did start a conversation about cannabis and basically the use of it in public, and often, let me rephrase that, not often, sometimes you will go to an establishment and you can smell that somebody has been smoking marijuana or that type of thing. So we just are going to put a little bit of a reminder into this presentation that while it might be legal in Massachusetts for you to possess and to use on your private property, it is still not legal to use in public. And we also want to remind them that federally, it's still not legal. Massachusetts has made it legal, but the United States government has not. So that's why some of the rules and regulations that are in place through the Cannabis Control Commission are there. So it's not going to be a major portion of it, but I think to send out some reminders, it's probably a good thing.
Excuse me, Aaron, going back to, you had mentioned that there was undue rumors that was partial to the town of Barnstable. Is that because, is that just for the cannabis, or is that for alcohol?
That's specific for alcohol. So what kind of prompted this was an article by a news outlet that doesn't necessarily have any standing, but there is some truth to it, and the numbers show that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I don't want to get into that. But Barnstable is pretty high up on the list of towns with the most DUIs. And it's not.
But is that in the state of Massachusetts? Or,
For Massachusetts, yes,
because, I mean, we have more facilities here than
100%.
anybody else.
And I understand that, and it makes sense to me why, especially on the Cape, Barnstable is it. I mean, Hyannis is really, I look at Hyannis as the city for the Cape.
Yeah.
It's not just the city for Barnstable. It really is where everyone comes to have a good time at night, right? So I appreciate that, but I think perhaps pulling on my own experiences, I had someone come in when I was in high school who killed a woman because he was drunk driving, and the story he told sits with me to this day. I can hear that story of what happened, and it has never left me, and I have never had alcohol and drank and driven because of that. So I think there's a lot of value to having someone come in and kind of scare your staff. I think another piece of this is I would like to have all of the managers come, not just the owners. So whether you're the alcohol manager or you're managing a shift, I would love to see those folks come who can really pass down the word to their staff. And hopefully it makes an impact. And of course, there's nothing saying that all these DUIs are stemming from an establishment. Certainly people drink at home and get back out in their car.
Well, pretty soon they're going to start, I mean, they already, if they know who the bar was where this person got all this alcohol, they get sued too. So it's to their best interest to be aware of this.
So, Mrs. Logan and I have had this conversation for this meeting, and I've actually already started working with our records department at the police department. We are going to put together some hard numbers for you for this meeting. I don't like to work with rumors, and I don't even know where these numbers actually came from. I will say that Barnstable is one of the larger communities in the state of Massachusetts. We do have a very high call volume overall. So to say that we have a higher percentage, it's probably pretty accurate, but I don't know where those original numbers came from. I'm going to be able to provide you numbers from our town. And if we can come up with some numbers throughout the state that are coming from a valid source, we will provide you with that as well. As you were talking about the last drink report, yes, that is something that gets asked during the booking of someone who is arrested for operating under the influence. I will say that it's probably 50-50 on whether the person actually answers that question, where the last drink was actually had. We can't order them to do it. Sometimes they voluntarily give that information, sometimes they don't. So that question is asked during the booking, and we are going to be able to pull that information out as well. So we're gonna do a little bit of a deep dive into some of these numbers so that we can have some real facts for you at that meeting.
Any other questions?
Mr. Decker, if I may.
Sure.
Director Logan, thank you very much for the heads up on that training that I participated in on the 14th. I found it very informative. And I'd like to just go back to that a little bit and inquire if you or Officer Kelsey have any information or background information about what the impetus was for the addition of the 2 forms of ID to the law. They didn't really explain it in the directive. I would assume, and when you assume, it's kind of a slippery slope, that there probably is some push from the Restaurant and Bar Association adding that ID gives them a layer of liability protection. I would assume that was probably part of it. The global entry card, I really don't know where that came from. I had to look up what a global entry card is. It's basically used predominantly in border states where people go back and forth multiple times, and it's an entry card that allows easier access when you're crossing in from Canada, you're a truck driver, or Mexico and whatnot. So I don't know what that is. But my concern, and I think it's a worthy topic for discussion if anyone would like to join in, is the valid ID license from another state. I understand it's a very positive development for the bar owners and the door staff because it takes away, it adds some protection to them that they accept the IDs. But there's also a flip side to that coin. And, you're going to have to, and I think maybe one of the topics we can talk about for your yearly meeting is a more educational what these out-of-state driver's licenses look like. A door person from any particular bar in Hyannis that is not well-traveled might have no idea what a driver's license from Oregon looks like. And the problem of fake IDs is been around forever, but the quality and the grade of these IDs that every college kid seems to have nowadays, they look pretty close to real driver's licenses. So I think on one side it's a benefit to the business community, but it also adds another layer of responsibility to them to vet out what is a valid, it says valid right in, it's a valid ID. Well, a fake ID is not a valid ID. So I think that's a double-edged sword, and maybe some education on from coming from the board and coming from your direction might be helpful.
Great. I have added it to my list.
I will say, while I understand everything that you just brought up, the educational portion, and I know that this has been a change even since I've had this position for the last 3 or 4 years, the guidance I've gotten from the ABCC is that they are trying to, while they'll provide information, they're trying to get away from training when it comes to identification. And part of that, I think, and I don't know this as gospel, is they are trying to get away from themselves being liable by some bar owner coming up to them and saying, well, I checked this ID. This is how you taught me how to check the ID. It's not my fault that this person got in. And they've sort of said, we're going to make it the responsibility of the licensee to make sure that their staff and their employees are trained properly to be able to identify these phony IDs. A lot of them have actually started getting the electronic readers. They're great pieces of equipment, but again, they're not perfect. So I think we should definitely reinforce education, and I think that we should talk to the licensees about that, but I would caution about us taking the role and being the people that are doing the training.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't articulate enough, Officer Kelsey. I apologize for that. I don't support or suggest that the board provides any kind of training, but this is a big change in how a lot of these places have done business. It's been my past experience that not accepting out-of-state driver's licenses, although at sometimes was a nuisance at an entry point at a bar, it was also sometimes a blessing because it allowed the businesses to not serve or not admit somebody that they may have had a feeling this is a false driver's license, but I have no way of proving it. I can't say they're answering all the questions correctly, but I have, they are a group of 5 kids from Massachusetts and 1 kid from Rhode Island, and they're all buddies, and they're all together. Common sense, they're asking reasonable door person, we're asking these people to use common sense, we're asking them to use discretion, we're asking them to use good judgment. This here makes it a little bit more difficult for the people at the door to deny entry to somebody with a valid out-of-state driver's license, when before they could rely on the Massachusetts law and say, we don't accept out-of-state licenses, it's our policy, it's written in the law what the required IDs are. So that's why I think it's important when we talk to them collectively as a group that we, point out the pros of this thing, liability issues, but also the cons, that it adds them another layer of responsibility.
I don't see why we can't provide them with some tools. We certainly have an ID guide. We can point them in the direction of some tools that will help them. I know we had come up with, 2 years ago, information on what the driver's license will look like in terms of your birth date, where you were, right? I'm trying to think of some of the key pieces that were on that was essentially a cheat sheet in how to analyze the license based off of, the driver's license will say this, and if they're born this year, these numbers will be in this particular position. I guess my point is I have no problem providing some tools and talking about that and listening to what they see as the biggest hindrance to this.
I would assume the big push is going to come on from private companies that produce these scanners and sell these ID scanners to people. And the problem I foresee is the quality of these fraudulent IDs are usually one step ahead of the scanners, because they're not just used for college kids to get into bars. They're used by people that are engaged in identity fraud, fraudulent check cashing, and those type of things. That's what the impetus is for creating the fake IDs that are predominantly coming out of China, and they're very high grade. I don't mean to hog the board's time, but I can remember one time getting a fraudulent driver's license from a person from Maine on a traffic stop. And I ran the person's license, and it was a male driver, and it came back to a female operator. And I thought I just didn't have my readers on, and I didn't read the number right. So I re-entered the number in the computer, and it came back as a fraudulent ID. And that's the quality of them. So to ask the folks at the doors to do that, I think maybe it doesn't need to be at the annual meeting. That time is precious. That time is one time a year. Maybe it can just be an advisory, email type of stuff. Whatever you guys, it's your bailiwick, whatever you guys think is the most beneficial, I would certainly support.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
You have
very
an-
informative. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very, you haven't established any tentative date for the annual meeting, have you?
Oh, yes, we have. So right now, the date we've confirmed with the ABCC will be April 30th. It's a Wednesday. And I think we're looking to do something similar where the ABCC is going to come in at 10 o'clock in the morning and give a presentation to all the Cape and the Islands again. So it'll be all Cape and Islands, board members, staff, and then the afternoon we would meet with our licensees. We're actually looking at that being a little longer than our standard hour. We're thinking maybe 2 hours because of the presentations we hope to have, some guest speakers that will take up some of that time.
Is that the same day as our regular meeting?
Yes, so our meeting, I'm sorry. That particular Wednesday, we do not have a meeting. Now you got me nervous. No, 2, 3. No, our April meeting is the week before, so it doesn't fall
On the
on
23rd,
Correct.
right.
The ABCC will be hosting theirs at 10, and we're looking at noon for the licensees for the afternoon. I'm still looking to secure a place. I've asked for a quote from one of the establishments, and I'm waiting to hear back. But I think this time right now and moving forward, we are open to suggestions. If there's something you feel where we need to get out to our licensees, it's a great opportunity when you have most of them sitting in the same room.
I have a question I know that when you have cannabis, and it's smoke, there's an odor, But how do you control edibles?
So before we go down that road,
Okay.
I just want to make sure that everyone understands that cannabis is not licensed by the licensing authority, and it's not licensed, it's not part of the license for any of these alcohol licensed establishments. It is controlled under different rules and regulations and state laws. Cannabis really, smoking cannabis, it follows the same rules as smoking cigarettes in public. It is against the law to smoke cannabis in public, but it's actually a fine. It's not something that we're going to go out there and place somebody under arrest for. As far as edibles, it's very challenging. I mean, there's really not a whole bunch that we can do to go in there and say, all right, did you just go into the bathroom and did you eat an edible? So, I mean, it's a challenging question. It's a challenging task. But at the same time, I don't think that the licensing authority really wants to try to solve that problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Police updates.
We've actually been fairly busy in the last couple of weeks. It's nothing that we can really bring to the public right now. I think next meeting we will have some updates for you, but I will say that we do have at least 2 investigations going on with licensed establishments, and then we have also a few of the what's the word I'm looking for? Informal meetings that Director Logan and I have provided to some of these licensees when they have minor infractions, and we think that there's just some education that needs to happen, some reinforcement maybe. That's something that we started to do months ago, and I think it's worked out really well. It does several things. It does educate the person on what they did that was out of compliance, and it gives them a chance to fix their issues. The other thing is we've now put it on record that we've had that conversation with them, and if they continue to be outside of compliance, we can bring them to you, and we can explain to you that we've already had a conversation with them. This is what we observed before. This is what is continuing to happen, and you have a little bit more of background into what they are doing or not doing properly for you to make a more educated decision.
It certainly sounds like you're being very proactive, which is...
We're trying to. What we've noticed is that the vast majority of the times that somebody's out of compliance, it's either because they just don't know. They should know, but they don't, or they've forgotten. So a little reinforcement is, say, you know what, we want you to be successful, we want you to have a good business, but you got to do it within these parameters.
Right.
And I'd say more often than not that it turns out to be successful.
Very good. The question I have, I know that in 2024, I think that you had indicated that the town of Barnstable didn't do any stings. Are there any plan for 2025?
We actually, Aaron and I just talked about this yesterday. The legal notice is going into the paper this week. So that's something that we're required to do. I will say that the biggest reason that there weren't is that we have been in conversation with the ABCC, and they were doing some of their own in the town of Barnstable. And as we all know, Director Logan was in a temporary position for quite some time. So I think we all felt it was probably in the better interest not to necessarily do certain programs that we've done in the past until we had everybody in a permanent position. And now we have that. So we're going to readdress some different programs that have happened in the past and see which ones we want to reinstate, maybe change a little bit, but it gives us the ability to do more things.
Thank you.
If I may just add on to this, you know, in doing any type of research prior to my time here, you'll see that the agendas are not super heavy, but you'll see quite a few show cause hearings. I just want to let you folks know and the public know that we are, just because you're not seeing these show cause hearings, these conversations are just happening between Officer Kelsey, myself, and the licensee. I don't recall an instance where we had to go back after we've spoken to someone about an issue and that issue kept repeating. So far it's been working, and certainly people fly under the radar, and it's the nature of the beast and the volume of licensees that we have. But because you don't see actionable items on the agenda for offenses, if you will, we are having conversations with our license holders. It is happening, and I'm happy to share with the board if you folks want some information, but I think right now, if you're good, we're good. We certainly are not shy to elevate it to you. I'm going to leave it at that.
From my point of view, I think that's great. I think that saves a lot of time, certainly, and cuts down on having people come in front of us for something to get their hands slapped, and then we move on from there. In most cases, it's taken care of. But if it's putting more burden on you folks and a lot more work, which I recognize, but I think if you can solve it without it becoming public, it also protects the aggrieved, those. So that's great.
Just, I guess for a quick example, we had a licensee who recently opened his Class 2 auto dealer and wasn't operating at his hours. And we spoke with him, we called him in, he came in and had a very legitimate explanation for it, and we explained that moving forward, if you're not going to be open, let us know. If you find that you need to manipulate your hours and come to the authority and change your operating hours, that's okay. But you can't not run your business. So here we go again. Those are the types of conversations we're having where I don't feel that we need to out this gentleman. Not on number one. Maybe on the second time. All right, now we're going to come before the authority. But so far, it's been working.
Great.
If I may be heard on that, please, Mr. Decker? I wholeheartedly agree with what you just said, Director Logan, and I truly appreciate the fact that you guys are using education as well as enforcement as your tool. I think that's your primary purpose is to educate, not to enforce. Enforcement is a tool that we use, but the education is very important, and advising people on how to comply and using discretion is tantamount, and I commend you for that model.
Anybody else? One other question I have. This has been a problem I know between you and I, so it's firsthand. If we're going to not attend a licensing meeting, how do you want us to proceed? Do we just not contact you? Do we contact you and tell you we're not going to? Do we, just by not contacting you, assume we're going to be here? No, that's been a problem in the past, and
Sure.
we need to get it straightened out going forward.
So for the record, when I send out materials, right, it helps me if you respond. And it helps me if you respond at that time and also tell me if you have to recuse yourself from any application. And the reason being, if I have 4 people here, or if I have 3 of you here, right, because that's what we need to hear an application, and 2 of you can sit on one application and the third can't, well, now I had someone come to a meeting and they don't have a quorum. So that particular case, we could have opened and continued and not had the applicant come. That's why the knowing ahead of time is important. Same as you folks letting me know, all of you actually let me know that you're going to be here today. I know Vice Chair Flores, we have our own system. He's always going to be here. He'll tell me when he's not going to be here.
So
I know if I don't, so that's our system we have going on, and that's fine. There's not so many of you that I can't work within whatever works, but yes, responding is great. Taking a quick peek at the agenda and determining whether or not you're going to need to recuse is key. When all of you are here, not a big deal. But if I'm looking at a quorum of 3 and one of you can't sit, that puts someone out. And again, it's just more of the inconvenience for the potential license holder. Does that answer your?
Yeah, thank
question.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. I know I was guilty of that, because I always assume that I'll be there if you don't hear from me.
If
But-
that, yeah.
Right.
It gives me peace of mind. And in part, why we moved meetings to Wednesdays.
Right.
Because I was losing sleep on Sundays, hoping that I had a quorum on Monday morning.
No, glad to get that straightened out. Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 26th, 2025. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you on February 26th.